Welcome to GBN America. It is a very sunny day here in London, so let's have a roundup of all the royal news. Michael Cole joins me now to go through all the stories. Good afternoon to you, Michael. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine here as much as I am in London this morning. Now, let's start with Meghan Markle. So obviously there's been rumours for a while that she might have political ambitions of her own and sees herself as a future president, maybe, of America. But is she getting involved this time around?
Well, she's made no secret of her political interests from a very young age. And all those interests have been in the democratic cause to such an extent that when President Trump, as president, made a state visit to Britain, she absented herself. She didn't want to be presented to Trump. Such was her disdain for the Donald. It has been rumored that maybe she will look towards a political career in California because there has been precedent in the past. Ronald Reagan, of course, was governor of California. So was Arnold Schwarzenegger, both of them in the Republican Party cause. But there have been other people in California. Jerry Brown, a former two-time governor, he had a radio talk show. So show business and politics are quite closely allied, particularly in the Golden State. It has often been said that politics is show business for ugly people. Well, perhaps politics is now going to be show business for rather attractive people. And certainly, Meghan Markle has never been shy about making her political views known. And it is interesting that when she married Prince Harry in Britain, she did become a member of the Church of England. She was baptized into the Anglican Church, but she did not take British citizenship. She is not a British subject. So she kept her American nationality very much alive. So she would be quite well poised. They say, in show business, there's no second act, but she had a first act, which was, of course, as a soap star with the very successful, and I quite liked it, show Suits. Then, of course, she became a royal duchess. Maybe she's got a third act as the political Meghan.
She's always made quite a lot, hasn't she, of this anecdote she tells about being a child and writing a letter. Was it to a soap company about some gender stereotyping in a commercial? And therefore she positioned herself, nothing wrong with this, as a kind of feminist campaigner. And she sees, I think, sexual equality as being part of maybe the area, the ideologies that she would want to get involved with. But I don't know about you, Michael, but I think if you want to demonstrate your feminist credentials, probably the last thing you do is give up your career when you get married to be a professional wife. For me, that slightly undermines those ambitions.
Well, I think you're right in every respect there. And I'm a feminist too. How could I be? I had a daughter. I always wanted to see her get on in the world. I didn't want nasty men holding her back. I had a very clever sister and a very strong mother. So as far as I was concerned, the hand that rocked the cradle ruled the world. I always supposed that women were cleverer and on the ball. And when I went to the BBC, where there was notional equality between the genders from its inception in the 1920s, I was always very happy working with women. I used to say, as long as you don't mind driving the car and carrying the tripod from time to time, you're very welcome on any shoot that I do overseas. So I'm in favor of feminism in its true sense. And if she believes in that, I think that's going with the tide of history. But, it is fairly... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I, like you, love Suits. I think it's the most fantastic drama series created before we got all woke. In fact, the leader of the legal firm is a black woman, and yet no mention is made of the fact that she's a black woman. She's not there because she's black. In fact, there's one episode where she comes across an old email in which it's suggested that her boss hired her because she was a black woman, and she takes objection to that and said, I should never have been a diversity hire. I'm here on my merit. And in a way, that's why Suits has sort of aged, but in fact remains almost timeless, and it harks back to a time of nostalgia where women, people of colour, weren't given these positions because of who they happened to be born, but actually because of it's a real meritocracy, isn't it? Is what I think I'm trying to say, and yet Meghan Markle has now become the sort of the princess of what we might call woke, ironically, in many ways.
I put my hand up, Bev. I enjoyed Suits. I thought it was well done. It was well crafted. It was well acted, and it was engaging. But I don't know whether you're with me. I always thought that she was a typical California girl. I never thought a minute about her race until I think about the fourth or the fifth series, when suddenly her father, who was a judge, a black man, was introduced.
Yeah.
Which before that date, I thought that, she was just a California girl. I wasn't concerned with the hue of her skin tone or anything else. And I think there is evidence in the past that she was represented by her agents, perhaps, as being a white person. I don't know the truth of that, but I think people tie themselves in knots about race. But actually, what they're really looking for is merit, talent, ability. Likability. Those are the things that matter. Most people, particularly in Britain, are very open-minded about these things. I mean, we're cheering just as heartily everybody who's in the British Olympic team and in the English football team, regardless of race, colour, or creed or religion. So,
and so in terms of Meghan Markle and whether she does have that talent, intelligence, likability as a potential politician, perhaps a potential president one day, do you think the American public would be won over by her, be that now or in, 5-10 years?
Well, first of all, they've got to accept Kamala Harris. In one fell swoop, it would be a woman of colour. I think that's the correct expression. And a woman. America has never had a woman president and has never had anybody who looks like Kamala Harris at all. So that's the big first step. In this country, Britain, we've had 3 women prime ministers, Mrs. Thatcher, Mrs. May, and Liz Truss in our time, all Conservatives, by the way, it might be noted. So it's possible. The life is changing. California has never been exactly like the rest of the United States. It goes its own way. It has always been indelibly liberal most of the time, although, as I say, it did elect 2 notable Republican governors in Reagan and Schwarzenegger. And of course, President Reagan then became the president, having started out as a trade union official for the actors' trade union. So anything is possible in this world because California does things differently. And why is that? I mean, it is partly, it's because of the light. The film industry originally went to California for one simple reason. The early film stock in the beginning of the 20th century was so difficult. You had to have extremely bright light in order to expose it effectively. And in California, you had wonderful sunshine throughout the day. And that was the real reason all these people, mainly from Central Europe, directors, actors, writers, all relocated to the West Coast because they had free lighting all day long for their location shots. And that's why
I did not know that. And given how much rain and cloud we have here, Michael, it's a miracle that we make any movies, isn't it, really, except the days like today where it's beautiful here in London today. Right, listen, let's talk about King Charles reportedly giving Prince Harry a substantial amount of money. What's this about? How true could this be?
Well, this is one of the mini bombshells in a good new book by my dear friend, and I think this programme's friend, Robert Jobson. He's written a book. And he makes that revelation in it. But Beverley, I think we've got to look at this when, tragically, the much missed Diana, Princess Diana, was so awfully killed in Paris in 1997, August the 31st. She left a great deal of money to both her sons. It was reported to be £7 million each. And then when the Queen Mother died, she left money to her grandchildren and to her great-grandchildren, including Prince Harry, and it was rumoured that his share was over £1 million. Now, we can't say precisely, Beverley, because royal wills are sealed, they're kept secret, and they are never disclosed. Unlike you and me, when we die, if we make a will and we've left tuppence halfpenny, our will be published, and if people are interested enough, they can put in the paper how much money we left and who we left it to. But that doesn't apply in the royal family. They're allowed to keep their secrets, and it's a privilege they guard. So we honestly don't know. I would have thought that with the lifestyle they've adopted in Montecito, it's extremely expensive. You can burn through an awful lot of money with security around the clock, 365 days of the year, 3 shifts of burly men, costs a lot of money, notwithstanding all the electronic surveillance and all the rest of it. That's very expensive. They have high expectations. And although they've earned a great deal of money from Netflix in particular and other ventures that they are undertaking or have completed, you can quickly become poor. And their ambitions are high, and they're living in and with people who have immense sums of money, and it's quite hard to keep up. So,
do you believe, though, Michael? Do you think that King Charles is just there, happy to write blank cheques for these 2 spendthrifts when they decide they want an extension to the west wing of the house and a pool?
Their west wing, not the one in Washington, D.C.
Exactly.
King Charles is in a different position from how he was. He's had a tap on the shoulder from fate, from Kismet. He's got cancer. And he, above all, wants reconciliation with his younger son. He would take a view, perhaps, that if he can help his son, he will. The door has already been opened, always open to Prince Harry, even though he's said some very unkind, uncharitable, and very hurtful things, not just about the king, but about the Queen, Queen Camilla, and about Prince William, and especially about Princess of Wales, Kate. So there's a lot of bad blood there, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But,
well, lucky old Meghan Markle, hey. Lucky old Meghan Markle that she married well and can be bankrolled by her father-in-law. Again, not quite the feminist image that I aspire to in 2024. Right, Michael, I also want to talk about Princess Anne. Obviously, we've got the Olympics in Paris at the moment. Princess Anne, a former Olympic athlete herself. And I always think she looks, look, Princess Anne never looks particularly happy, does she? Let's be honest. That is her demeanour. I love that about her. She's very buttoned up. She just gets on with it. But she always looks like she must be enjoying the sport. Do you think that this is one of those roles that she really enjoys?
I think that's right. She's a trooper. She's 73 at the moment, 74 a little bit later in this year. And as you say, she was an Olympian. She competed at the Montreal Olympics, which I think was 1986, if I'm right. In fact, she fell off a horse and she was quite badly injured, but she got up and got back on. And she also had a similar experience at the World Championships in Kiev. And just before those Olympics in 86, she'd had a very bad crash, fell off a horse, and the horse fell on her at a horse trials in southern England. But she competed that year. And she is now, she was the BBC Sports Personality of the Year. Yeah. And she is now the president of the British Olympic Association. And she's been in Paris presenting medals to British winners, but also to the winners from other countries, and taking a particular interest in the equestrian events, because that's what she did, the 3-day event, which is dressage, show jumping, and cross country. She excelled in that. And the Queen, I think that gave the late Queen a tremendous amount of pleasure to see her daughter following in the equestrian footsteps of many other members of the royal family. So she's a trooper. And it was only June the 24th that she had this accident at her estate in Gloucestershire at Gatcombe. She collided, and we don't know how it happened, because she says that she has no recollection of what happened, but she certainly collided with a horse, and she sustained a concussion. Now, concussion is never a trivial matter. It's a serious matter. Your skull gets beaten up and your brain gets shaken up. And she was in hospital for, I think, 4 or 5 nights. And she came out and she said to people since, I don't know what happened, but whatever happened, a horse, she was walking around her estate, a horse and she came into collision. But she's back there doing her job. People say she looks a little bit thin, a little bit pinched. But I went round the world with her. She was never a ray of sunshine, but she got on with the job. She saw royal duty as something which was very, very important. And she's always discharged hers with a great deal of style. And people warm to her. You know, they accept that she's very much her father's daughter. She's very plain spoken. She doesn't put up with idiots. And if she has criticisms to make, she will forthrightly make them. But she's been there in Paris and doing a good job.
And far be it from me to correct you, Michael Cole, on anything royal, but it was actually the 76, not 86 Montreal Olympics. We see we're all older than we feel, right? That's an easy mistake to make. Who could believe it was 76? And just briefly then, before you go, Zara, her daughter, almost made these games again, didn't she? She's also competed in the Olympics previously. I think it was in Athens in 2004, and also 2012 in London.
Yeah, Zara Phillips, because Princess Anne decided not to give her children fancy royal titles. They are just Miss Zara Phillips, as she was. Now she's married, and Mr. Peter Phillips, which is her son, the Queen's the late Queen's oldest grandchild. Yes, 76 it was. I have been to Montreal. I've been through the terminal at the airport that was built especially for the games. I ought to know, and yeah. I'm rightly corrected. Thank you very much for telling me. But so yeah, Zara was followed in that great tradition. She was very bold, and her mother took great pride in that, because equestrianism is very much part of the royal job. Riding in parades, the King's Sovereign Parade, the coronation, or whatever it happens to be, having a horse or a skill on a horse is part and parcel of the royal job, and quite good too, because the bond that comes between a person and a horse has got nothing to do with royal status or wealth. It's to do with bonding with the horse and making sure that you both work together. The horse does the hard work, but the man or woman riding that horse is also very much an integral part of their success. And
well, Michael, you've done all the hard work there with me today, so that seems like a good place to leave it. And we also have a bond. Thank you so much for joining me. The stallion that is Michael Cole there, royal expert. I'm Bev Turner. I'll see you soon.